Who wants to take that one?
You know, generally speaking, we like to think of it, or I like to think of it as you'd love to, you know, if you had in a perfect world, you want all the growth to pay for all the new demand created by that growth. And that's sort of the approach we're taking with this buildup. We're saying, DOD, you are our customer now. You're going to be a bigger customer. You need to pay for the cost of making the system bigger to handle your greater load, whether it's power, water, or wastewater. We're very encouraged that they're going to remain our power customer. They want to be, and they're going to become our wastewater customer. And we're still doing some arm wrestling on the water piece. But at least the dialogue is very constant and very real, that an integrated approach to utilities is best, and that growth should pay for growth. We also have a law that says it requires a system development charge, and the Public Utilities Commission is about to approve this new charge. And this law has been on the books for 7 years. We're now implementing it. Every new person that builds a house in the future is going to have to spend $6,000, give it to GWA so we can build more wells, make the wastewater plant bigger to handle their load. So growth should pay for growth. It's not always simple to do the math and the engineering and the accounting to get it right, but that's the basic premise. But that doesn't mean that those of us that already live here and that are going to live another 20 or 30 years with the existing system, that the existing system doesn't need investment as well. We've got a Ganya transfer station we got from the Navy. It's older than John Beneventi, so it's really old. Now John's good, but you know, my grandson's going to need another switch station down there. So part of our challenge in managing expectations is, while we focus on the build-up and all the future to pay for growth, we have to recognize that the existing capacity has been underinvested in for decades and was badly managed. And we are behind the curve. And you see it if you have bad water pressure and brownouts and occasional island-wide outage. That's a reflection of how we didn't keep up with growth very well. And we need to do a better job. But it is inevitable, at least historically. History has taught us one thing on Guam, that we continue to add population. We can argue about why we do, but for the moment, let's accept the fact that we're going to add more people. How do we make sure there's enough power, water, and wastewater services to support that growth, and who pays for it? And that's the constant battle, is not that we don't want all the things, but who pays for it, how do you allocate it? My feeling is growth should pay for growth. Existing ratepayers should pay for the existing capacity to be modernized. But at the end of the day, as John said, he flicks the switch and he pays his power bill. He's not sure which part of his power bill is going to the old growth, the new growth. He just knows he's got power in his house. And that's our job, is to produce that resource for you and try to balance the allocation of costs and allocate those costs fairly to those that use that resource. And it's not always easy, and we're not always going to agree on that balancing act. But no one should argue that we shouldn't provide power, water, and wastewater to a community as it grows, and figure out the best way to get it paid for.
Thanks. Anybody else? Okay, next question then, please.
Hello, perfect segue. Who pays for it? Okay, perfect. And in looking over this and thinking about it, you know, a lot has been discussed about renewables and who pays for it. Who pays for it? Our prices are going to keep going up, and this is really a question: is our timing right for renewables right now? That's the question. Everybody wants to go green. It's the right thing to do. We're going to have to do it. But are we prematurely driving up our costs? So is the timing right, or should we be waiting a year to instigate it? Just question. Another concern I have is I represent obviously a large user group here, and we'd like to be a little more involved in planning if possible. Now, an example of this is, like, let's say we're putting up a solar plant somewhere on island, solar energy. Now, we're going to have line losses bringing it down to an area where we use large amounts of power down in San Vitores Road. We have hundreds of thousands of square feet on roofs that we can use it and reduce transmission losses and stuff, just as as an example. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Another question? You want an answer?
Yeah, I'll try to. I'll try to answer that one. Is the timing right? That's a good question. That's what we are trying to address at this point, because again, wasn't it just last summer that we were up to $100 some a barrel, and and we look at our hedging contracts and everything, and it's just all off to the top in terms of that. So the drive was renewables, renewables, renewables. So then we went out on a bid for renewables, and we got some pricing in. Oh, wait a minute, it's about 8 over 20, that's 20, 30 some percent more expensive energy. Where do we go? Wait a minute, let's take a look. Let's get our stakeholders in here again. We as a utility don't want to go and say, okay, we're mandated to go for renewables. We got some pricing, some real pricing where we can contract on now. We want to make sure that the stakeholders are still with us. We don't want to open the newspaper in the morning or go to another place and find out that, oh, by the way, you guys just made why did you increase rates to this type of decision? So again, we're trying to find out from the stakeholders what they're willing to work, because from a utility standpoint, when you get something like, say, 30 cents for renewables and we're paying 15 cents for oil energy, it's a very difficult thing to just go and increase the rates to happen that. So, but there are, like I mentioned earlier, other opportunities. It creates employment. It creates, again, a way of life for others. So, putting that together with all the stakeholders, there is a point where we can quantify that, and then quantify project where we may be in the future through different sensitivities. We may be able to come to a balance and then proceed with the hedging with renewables, because renewables is, no matter which way you look at it, is more a way to hedge the future. Airlines hedge on fuel oil today. We hedge, and we gain a lot and then lost a lot when the price went down. But so, we have to come together and provide that scenario. And we are working to that. We're getting close to that point. But the other thing is, we really are trying to encourage and open up the opportunities to everyone who has an idea to be able to provide energy. And through the utility is what we like to say, so that we can spread that gain throughout everyone. And because the biggest factor is that 70% of whatever your power bill is really oil that just comes in and out here. So if we can maintain that source of funds here, we'll be able to really, way of life for a lot of our people will be better. So to answer your question, it's being addressed right now, and we certainly would like to hear more from you. But yeah, let's take advantage of all the rooftops and all of that, being able to work together, make it happen. But let's all get on the same page, and maybe the next few months we will be able to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, John. We have time for one more question, Senator.
Yeah, thank you very much. Buenos dias. I felt kind of offended, actually, Simon, my next-door neighbor, because of the... I suppose I felt like you were trying to delegitimize the Chamorro people's, or indigenous people's, claim to indigenous rights. And because you brought it up, it just dawned on me that it seems like we never, and John, you mentioned a 20-year plan. It seems like here on this island, most of our plans are confined to, the election cycles. And I have yet to hear of 50-year, 100-year plans that have vision in them. And looking at how we can operate outside of this political framework that we're in. We're talking about indigenous resources and ways that we can utilize our indigenous resources for improving our indigenous ways. I'd like to hear a little bit more about maybe redesigning homes so we can save on our power bills. The marine monument strikes me as a political restriction, a way of limiting our indigenous resources and our accessibility to these resources in the Marianas.